Welcome back to our special program on the 2023 off-cycle elections in Imo, Bayelsa and Kogi states. This time around, I'm your host, Hamza Idris. My colleagues have done a great job of covering the election so far. They have provided us with updates on INEC's preparedness, the political parties' campaigns, and the key issues that voters are concerned about. Now, as the poll starts to close and the results start to come in, I'll be taking over the coverage. I'll be providing you with live updates and analysis, as well as interviews with experts over the course of the next hour. Thank you for joining me, so stay tuned. Welcome back. I have with me in the studio Nelson Omonu. He's a veteran journalist and he's the editor of Summit Post. I also have Clement Holede. He's our group politics editor here in Daily Trust. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes. Nelson, you looked a bit tired and agitated. Why?
Well, ordinarily, election is a process of just a political party ascending power. And it's as simple as that. But with what has happened today so far, I think election has gone beyond just how to acquire power, but it has become more of a war. When, as at yesterday, the catch of arms, that rifles that was intercepted on Itobe Bridge, and the people that are involved, it tells much about what is becoming of our electoral system. A local government chairman transporting very large sums and rifle to his local government. Ordinarily, a local government chairman is supposed to be the chief security officer of the local council. That is to say that the safety of every other person within that locality rests on his shoulders. But he was the one leading talks and transporting arms to his local government. Of course, where you have large rifles, AK-47 and all that, it's not meant for hunting. That it was meant to kill people, those who don't want to fall in line. If you refuse to be bribed, then you expect to see the other side. So looking at that, I think it calls for, but on the whole, I want to appreciate President Tinubu on this election, that the security, we've never seen this kind of security arrangement before. If not, it was supposed to be bloody, for instance, in Kogi, but all that averted. The security has done a lot to uproot rifles where youths that were armed, that were supposed to be unleashed on innocent voters, all that thwarted, and except for few stubborn heads that still went ahead to try to snatch ballot boxes here and there, but the security still took care of them. And I think on the whole.
All right. Yes, Clement, group politics editor. You have your reporters in all the three states. Since morning, they've been filing reports. What is the summation of it all as of this hour?
Well, just like you said, thank you once again for having me on the show. Our reporters across the three states were out since around 6 o'clock, and they've been giving us updates. And so far, from what we've gathered from everything that has been happening, I can say that it's not been surprising. I think the only thing that has been surprising is the level at which people had expected it. It's because of, just like what my colleague has said, Nelson said, because of the security deployment, maybe. That's why for now, we are still having it at a very low, because I don't want to be too optimistic. This is just like the first lap of the marathon that has just been concluded. The casting of votes. Sometimes is in the sorting and announcing of result at polling units where things become more bloody. But by and large, I think I will start the summation of this whole election with the position put forward earlier this morning by the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, after he cast his vote, that Nigeria has to do something about this off-season, off-cycle election. There is just a need to harmonize our election because, just like we always say in the newsroom, this election, off-cycle election, allows for party politicians to concentrate whatever they had in mind to do, to concentrate their effort, resources on few states. But if the election had been like what we had in February, what we had in March, when it was across 36 states, it would be difficult. Of course, in those elections, we still had issues. But this time around, everyone across the country, the attention is on Imo, is on Kogi, is on Bayelsa. And from what we've gathered so far, there has not been any of these states that we've not had issues. Of course, maybe they have not gotten to the extent that people were thinking it will. But you can still see that the fear affected the election in the sense of there were massive low turnout. A lot of, from the report we got from people on the field, a lot of places where you expect 300 people to be on the polling unit, you see 15, you see 30. That shows how bad the situation has been. And Nelson started by saying that, okay, if election is supposed to be a means to serve, then what is happening with Nigerian election or with this off-cycle election more or less confirm the idea and the mentality that people have about Nigerian politics, that is a do and die. If truly people are contesting this election to serve, you will not go all out and say it's a do or die.
The desperation.
The desperation is just too much. It shows that the motive behind going for elections in Nigeria, the first motive, they may have every other motive, any other motive, but the first motive is to serve their own pockets, is to serve their cronies most of the time. So that is why you can see that today election, for instance, is not, there is no yardstick you can use to measure it and say it has met up to any standard. The only standard we are measuring is that it has not gotten to the height of violence that we're thinking it will get to, but we've still recorded pockets of violence, pockets of electoral malpractices across the states. So that shows, that is just my summation at the moment.
Okay, Nelson, so it's more or less issue of desperation and despair.
Yeah.
Let's take Kogi, for instance. I learned that elections have been cancelled in entirety of certain places.
Yes. That of Kogi is a sad tale because one, let me start with failure of governance and the desperation to keep power at all costs. I think politics should start and it should stop at the level of fair debate. And the superior debates should have, the majority should have their way. But what we witnessed in Kogi today, especially over the night, that result from Ogorimagongo, the Arrow and the rest of them came to the polling units, those that were supposed to man, those that were trained to conduct the electoral process, compromised over the night. For instance, someone was arrested with ₦1 million cash, and with already written results. This was just to be like make mockery of people, queue up, just do as if you are crediting them, and by the time they finish and they are exhausted, you just swap the already made results, you drop it and just throw the one that is supposed to be the original one into the trash. And that is what is desperation to keep power at all means. In any case, we're not expecting anything different in Kogi because politics in Kogi has been reduced to like a private enterprise, and it's just like he gave the primary motive, gave the primary motive of going into politics these days as maybe to line their pockets. And I make bold to say that the first, second, third motive are just the same. Is just to line their pockets. Then to feather their nest, there's nothing else, because if you go to the Kogi of 2003, when Prince Abubakar of blessed memory left, and Kogi of today, you weep for the state. And then, besides, I need to bend back a little to while there is this delicate ethnic balance in the population of Kogi State. I need to provide background to this discussion, so that especially as it has to do with Kogi, because the East has about 900. You have to put the central and the west together to be able to rival the east. Following the death of Abubakar in 2015, when he was almost there. So, and Governor Yahya Bello came in eventually. So it is expected that maybe his performance will convince the people that are listening, irrespective of where a candidate comes from. What we want is good governance. That they did not see. For a person that has been working for like 20 years to wake up one day and discover that he's a ghost worker. So
after working for 20
after
years.
work,
Meaning there was no diligence in maybe doing the investigation in respect to who is genuine and who is not a genuine.
I think the motive ab initio was to just see what they can do to rubbish the system, so that the money that is supposed to go into public paying civil servants and all that is somehow maybe used for something else. So that created from within the Kogi Central, where the current governor comes from, the kind of disenchantment is in the central is even more than in other parts of the state. So if you witness the kind of outrage that we're witnessing now, and after finishing his rounding, I think his home stretch now, so he's supposed to be ordinarily supposed to move to the west, because the west has not produced a governor, except for about 3 months that Clarence Olafemi had to, and he decided to go for his cousin.
So you think all of this culminated to take us to where we are?
The kind of tension we're having in a Kogi election, because like few persons have been killed, so we're waiting for security agencies to give us details of what actually transpired. The hijacking, the thuggery and all that, those that were arrested, is just mind-boggling.
Okay, Clement, these counterfeit, papers, I mean, are they genuine papers that were intercepted? I mean, the result sheets, yes.
Well, at the moment, INEC, after that news came out, INEC told journalists that they are already investigating. We are certain what really happened. But I think INEC is doing a lot to redeem his so-called battered image post-election. As we're just talking here, I checked the IRF portal, and what I'm seeing there is really impressive.
Okay.
Because as I'm talking to you now, Bayelsa has already uploaded 53% of their election from the polling units.
53%?
Yes. They are the highest across all the local government, because they have
what about the voter turnout? They have 2,200,000.
Yes, that's why I started with the smallest, so to say, because Bayelsa among the 3 states have the smallest number of PVC collected or even voters, and the local governments are kind of smaller. They are just 8 local governments. Imo, where a lot of expectations were on the violence that would be there, we've still had at least 49% of polling unit results that have been uploaded. But Kogi, just as expected, that is where the problem is at the moment. Kogi, only 38% of polling unit results have been uploaded. But all this put together, if you compare this with what happened at the earlier stage in the February and March election, you will see that this is a level of improvement on the part of INEC, because the INEC chairman has already promised, and he has reaffirmed at different occasions, that they are going to upload.
And they are doing that.
And they are doing that. So with this, if they continue with the pace at which we are saying now, we should be able to have the winner before tomorrow morning.
Okay, are you worried about the result sheet in Kogi?
Yes.
And maybe this is the only one that came to the fore.
Yes, that's another thing.
Probably it has happened in many places that have not been discovered.
And that is why INEC needs some kind of house clean, some internal checks, because if you accept that, we have to wait for INEC to let us know if those the ballot papers are actually fake, or if they are genuine. That means INEC has questions to answer, because their systems are porous, that certain vested interests within the system can maybe access result sheets to give to certain people, or so we just, all of these starts and ends with INEC.
Yes.
If it has to do with electoral material, if it has to lead to maybe you have the deeper pockets who has the money to pay, and all that. Is like those that were arrested en route Kogi East. They also had for 2 local government, one of
the results.
Results.
So my concern, or the concern of the general public, is the authenticity of the result sheets, and then how they landed in the hands of these unscrupulous elements. Is it because maybe INEC recruited almost everyone, because they recruited over 46,000 officials, and not all of them are permanent staff.
That's right.
In payroll. Many are, ad hoc staff. Yes. So where did we get it wrong, Clement?
Well, I think we'll still need to wait for INEC to come up with their official position. But
since they said they are investigating.
Yes, since they said they are investigating. But from what we are all seeing, and I really agree with what Nelson has said, INEC really need to come out soon enough, fast, before the election process is concluded, and tell the whole Nigeria that, okay, these papers you are seeing, they are not genuine, or they are genuine. If they are genuine, this is how it got leaked out. And this is the measure we have taken to correct it. Because what this means is that if these papers are actually genuine, that means whatever they are using instead now, they are fake.
Yeah.
Because you can't have 2 authentic.
One must be counterfeit.
One must be counterfeit. Okay, perhaps you may tell us that, okay, you've already made plans for contingency plans, okay, for places where you have incidents. But then how can both the original and the contingency plan be out at the same time? So these are a lot of questions out there for INEC to really come and answer and say before the end of this process. I'm even expecting that before the end of today, INEC should come out and explain. This investigation is not the kind of investigation Nigerians should be waiting for 2 days, for a week before you come out and say.
It's been out there for hours.
Yes, because this has to do with the integrity of the whole process. It may just be in 1 or 2 local governments. They may say, okay, it's just 1 or 2 local governments, but even if it's one ward that has this issue, how are Nigerians supposed to trust what is out there in other places? Just look at what I said now. They've started uploading results. Nigerians will start asking questions that, okay, are we sure that is even the authentic result from the voting that they are uploading? So these are the questions that INEC need to quickly find a way of addressing.
But why is everyone taking the blame to the doorstep of INEC? Election is a process. You have security operatives, you have the political parties, you have the candidates, and all that.
They have the custody of electoral material. As a matter of fact, they determine in what quantity it should be produced, and the companies to handle it and all that. We expect that in considering those to handle the contractual, the handling of printing and all that, they should consider also the vulnerability of our system and where to get these things done so that it will not get the extras and possibly some other backroom exchanges will not take place that will let politicians have access to electoral material. We expect that all the due diligence were done before contracts were awarded.
Yeah, and Clement, ballot snatch.
Well, at this stage, like I said at the beginning, nothing that has happened in this election should surprise anyone that has been observing the process. Because the violence that has been recorded, the ballot snatching, just like you said, that has been recorded, I think was amplified by the statement credited to the INEC chairman in Bayelsa.
Okay, what did he say?
Where he said that based on the Electoral Act, wherever there is violence, the result will be cancelled. But he went further to say that after the elections are cancelled, INEC will not return to such polling units to conduct a first.
Meaning they've lost it out.
Meaning they've lost it out.
Yeah.
So for all observers of this election, you have just empowered politicians.
Yes. Cause mayhem.
Yes. Wherever a politician feels he doesn't have
upper hand,
is just to send some miscreants, cause violence there, let the election be lost. And that is why, from what we read in what happened in Kogi, the name of the local government I've skipped my mind, where the where the alleged ballot paper snatcher was shot down.
Okay, that is the Kina. One in Angiba and one is in Anko.
Okay, so you could see the narration I read from the story from our reporter was that the young man came and said there will not be election yet.
Yeah.
Simple.
They've not even started the accreditation process. Nothing has started. It's just INEC officials just arrived and they picked the beavers machine because, okay, this is what you intend to use. Break it on the ground and start stamping on it based on the report we got from our reporters and from the eyewitness. So you could see that this is a desperation to the highest level from politicians. They just don't want election to hold in that locality because the idea is that, okay, after that shooting, they're expecting that election will not hold there again, that it will be cancelled.
That's right.
And now that it's not cancelled, now here is the catch there. Now the election is not cancelled from that local government. Whoever lose at the end of the day from that local, lose the election generally and lose from that local government,
yes,
has a weapon in his hand to go to the tribunal and say, okay, here is what INEC has said. You said if wherever there is violence, you cancel the election. We have it recorded, it's reported in the paper that somebody was shot, there was violence, but the INEC people went back there and conduct election. So this election should not count. So you see, A or B, INEC has put itself in a very fixed position.
Yes.
And this is one of the challenges that this election will face, because you know Nigerian election, whatever, no matter how peaceful, no matter how credible, so to say, is described, they will still end up at the tribunal. So now, with the ballot box snatching, I'm still coming back to that, it is because of the do or die and the desperation of politicians. This is a young man, from all reports, is less than 30 or less than 40. Just agreed to waste his life just for a politician. Because what was he expecting?
Maybe to become a commissioner.
Okay.
Anyway, we have one of our reporters, Chris Jibade, who has been giving us updates this morning. Yes. How are you, Chris? Well, what do you have for us? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Chris. Yes, can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
What do you have for us, Press?
Okay, well, it's just updates from the electioneering process in Imo State. And I would say election has been concluded in most of the polling units, and counting of results is ongoing, though there's been reactions and there are claims and counterclaims of the process, experiencing some form of what I would call a violence, pocket of violence here and there. But then the police are trying their best to see how they can curtail some of these excesses of these persons whose stock in trade is actually to perpetrate violence on an election day like this. We've had instances where some hoodlums try to hijack ballot boxes, and as well, even hijack electoral officers as well. But then the police have been able to actually put a stop to that. Okay. At the moment, I'm standing in Owerri, the Imo State capital. I've gone to Olu, I've gone to Okigwe, I've gone to so many local governments within Owerri metropolis, and I'm just a few meters away from the Owerri municipal local government, one of the collation center, where I will be there to actually project the counting of the votes as well as the collation exercise. But then there's something very important a guest of mine here wants to speak about today. He wants to bear his mind on how the electioneering process went in his own polling unit as well as the entire state, as it were. He's a candidate in the race of the SDP, Social Democratic Party, in the person of Honorable Bright Obina Ekwebelem. Good afternoon to you, sir, Honorable Bright. How will you describe the process, the electionary process? The due day of the Imo State governorship election is today, and a lot has played out. How will you describe what has played out so far?
Well, the election today is full of voters and there's very low turnout of voters because of militarized, probably because of statute order. There was low turnout of voters to vote, and that's how affected the electioneering process today. We also noticed that INEC deliver on time in some polling units. And I think in Nigeria of today, INEC should lift up their expectations and deliver on time. They made us know that voting will start exactly by 8 hours from the reports and feedback They are meant to know that some places, maybe there are as much as 9:30, 10 o'clock. So this situation we have in the state.
Okay, sir, Honorable, you are a candidate in this race, and I believe every candidate who went into the election, their expectation is actually to win. And of course, only one governor will emerge in the state. What would the situation be like for you if you should emerge winner? What also would the situation be like for you if you lose this election?
I mean, the match winner is a call for service to the people of Imo State. Very justice to God and serve the people of Imo State very good life. And well, I can't say much now because the results are still coming out. But then in all situations, I advise all my supporters to remain calm as we await the results. But be that it may, we must have to show a bit of sportsmanship if the process is credible. So we await what I make and what everybody decides the situations where there are issues and where there are problems, because there are also reported cases of ballot matching and all that. While we wait for to see how that is resolved, I advise all my fans, all my supporters to remember about while we wait.
Thank you very much for your time, Honorable Ekwebelem. You can leave now. Well, that is Honorable Bright Ekwebelem. Like I said, he is a candidate in this race. Deliberately, I asked him that question. How would he feel? How would the situation be like for him if he should lose this election? And how will it be like for him if he should win? Because we have instances in this state where some persons lost election and they said the state will be ungovernable. They should lose. I wanted to know how would it be for him, because of course only one person will emerge the governor, and the state will continue to be if you lose or you win. Should it be a case of if I'm not the one who wins, should it be a case of the state should burn, or you would accept you will accept the outcome and go ahead to congratulate whoever wins. That was why I asked him that question, and I'm glad with the result he gave me. That his supporters, regardless of the outcome of the election, result, they should remain law-abiding and remain focused and patriotic.
Okay, how soon do you think collation will be completed? Maybe overnight or tomorrow?
I want to say this way. I want to say this will run into the night, because the election actually in some places started late. And I believe they extended voting time in most of those places. And since that happened, most of the results won't come into the collation center as was planned to be. So definitely there will be extension of time, and that will definitely run into the night. But we are there to cover it, and we'll be updating you as things unravel.
All right. Thank you, Praise, for this interview, especially with one of the politicians who is in the contest. Thank you, and we hope you give us another update as soon as you have it.
Definitely,
yes,
I will.
That was Praise Ajibade, our reporter in Imo State. The person he interviewed, he spoke about voter apathy. Can we attribute this to the sit-at-home directive? Yeah.
No, I think this has nothing to do with a sit-at-home. But it has more to do with the circumstance surrounding the last election in Imo. And I think, staying back because of what happened a few years ago is also compounding the problem. Instead, they are supposed to come out and overwhelm the system and ensure that whatever they feel was their misgiving about the earlier decision will have been corrected in this election. So I think it was a wrong calculation, or maybe laying back because of they don't trust the system. After all, we had it before, and maybe somebody came forth and distanced forth, and then eventually became the governor and all that. And I think those are the factors that played out.
Meaning people don't trust the process.
Yeah, I would like to add two more factors. The lack of trust, like you said, in the process, especially coming after the general elections, the 2023 elections. But let's not forget another thing. You mentioned that perhaps it's the sit-at-home. Yes, Imo State has been one of the most violence-prone states in the country in the past 2 or 3 years. There are hardly a week that goes by that there is no report of a major attack. If you put that into context, and you've seen the unknown gunmen, or so to say, or the IPOB, or whoever is behind all this sit-at-home order, telling people not to come out to vote. Aside places that are inside metropolis, how many of those
especially
places,
where press visited, like you know, he mentioned Olu, he mentioned Okegbe and Owerri. He said
all those are within the metropolis.
metropolis.
All of them are within Owerri metropolis. But we're talking about places that are far from the metropolis, where even if there are security deployed to the place, how many security? People will look at the situation, they know that once anything happens, it takes maybe 1 hour, 2 hours before they can have reinforcement. So that is a factor. Then the second factor I wanted to add, or I want to add, is the labor factor.
Okay, labor union.
Labor union. Yeah. The crisis between the labor union and the state government, which within the week we saw what happened that paralyzed flight activities from Lagos and from Abuja. Our reporters that we spoke to that covers the aviation sector spoke to a lot of travelers. A lot of them had the intention
to go and vote.
To go home and vote. I spoke with one of the senior police officers that were deployed to Imo last night. He told me that he had to reschedule his flight to Port Harcourt because his own is a compulsory, is an order. He said something that even if it's to trek from Maiduguri, they will have find their way of coming there.
That's right.
From Port Harcourt, he had to use public transport to go to Imo. But how many voters can make that extra sacrifice?
Yes, that's right.
Very unlikely, yes. Nelson, Honorable Bright, as the candidate, one of the candidates there who we interviewed, mentioned militarization of the whole process as another factor that affected, you know, the coming out of people. We know that the police deployed 25,000 to Kogi. The military, we don't know the number. Civil defense, you know, in general, they deployed 22,600. So how can we now reduce some of this militarization of the process? You can see in Imo, we have it on the screen, 25,565. FIRC,
police,
1,500. Vehicles, there are 35 vehicles, including tow trucks and ambulances. 3 DIGs, 220 patrol vehicles. Wow.
Well, before we're able to take care of
I look at civil defense, 22,600. So it most likely, I don't know, I may be wrong. Maybe the deployment will be more than the participation.
As if we're in a war situation. But look at it this way, that it comes from our mindset about acquiring political power. And it still stems from this do or die affair mentality. And this, you agree with me that despite these huge deployments, you still have security issues here and there. We expect that with this number of security personnel covering the state, we should have a history election, but that is not Nigeria. But you know what we can do. Before we continue, we start reducing the number of personnel we deploy for elections. We also have to take care of our approach to politics. That is, if we're able to see politics as to leave politics at the level of fair debate. If I am better, if you defeat me, I believe that I will do better next time. There are things that I'm supposed to do that I've not done this time, and possibly between now and the next dispensation, I'll be able to reach out more so that I'll be able to defeat you. But here, no, we don't leave politics. We subvert the system. We do all manner of things. That is why we still need deployment. Like, I will still use Kogi as example. The kind of interception, the kind of arrests that have been made, that is why, if not, I bet you Kogi would have been on fire as we speak. Because
so the deployment has its advantage.
That's right.
Despite the fear, probably it will instill.
As things are now, yes, we still need to continue to deploy until we are able to take care of maybe the aspect of good governance, when people will walk to the walk to the polling as they are voting. They are happy that the person they are voting for, that the vote the will of the people, voters will prevail. 1, 2, that the purpose for which they are electing a government at the end of the day will be realized. So those are concatenation of the factors that will continue to tell on the. See, security is not existing in a vacuum. It's a linear, like bushfire effect. What happened here will lead to what will happen next.
A ripple effect.
That's right. So if good governance start prevailing, you see that more people are moving out of poverty. You discover that crimes is reducing. The number of people, politicians, that are available to politicians to use as for nefarious activities will start reducing. By that, you will see that there won't be need for maybe more people, more security personnel. It will be so clear that this time, if you deploy this much, you are only wasting resources. So we'll start scaling it down. But for now, this is
okay, Clement. In the event,
yes,
INEC gets it right with uploading the result on its IREV, most likely the complaints will be less. Then how is it going to now manage the issue of manual accreditation as being witnessed in some places? We heard that there is this manual accreditation. So is this a new vista of, crisis for the electoral empire?
Okay. Before I answer this question, I have 1 or 2 points to make.
Okay, go ahead.
Previous question, which is about the militarization of the process. I do not agree with the gentleman politician that made that point, and everyone that have said that. And my reason is
you're talking about Honorable Bright.
Honorable Bright.
Featured, yes.
He's not the only one. A lot of politicians have also shared this sentiment. And I bear to say that the popular saying is, if you don't have anything to hide, why should you be afraid? If they are not intending to foist violence on the process, why should they be afraid of those that have been sent to ensure protection? In fact, voters, if not the fact that there is still less faith in the security apparatus that we have, the militarization of the process, so to say, as they call it, the deployment, every deployment is supposed to even give voters the confidence to come out.
That's right.
But still, because voters still don't even trust the so-called military, not military, or the entire security system that we deploy.
The concept of militarization, encompasses everything, even civil defense, the police.
So people don't trust that system yet. But like Nelson said, we still need to continue to secure our electoral process until we get it right. Until the moment we get to the level that technology is the one driving the process, where you need less manpower, where you need less of human involvement. And the second point is that even with all the deployment, like he said, like Nelson said, even with all the deployment, look at the issues we're having. Maybe I'll just make this additional point.
Go ahead.
In Kogi, yesterday, EFCC told us that they deployed 550 personnel. Before 12 o'clock today, what am I saying? Before 11 o'clock, report everywhere was the issue of vote buying.
And
where were
some paid the minimum wage.
Yes.
30,000. There are reports that some of the politicians that are so desperate to get they paid as much as 30,000.
That is where
I've never heard of this before.
That is where the
especially
problem
to
is.
Individual voters. They can give party officials and all that, but to an individual you give up to 30,000 naira for his vote.
That is where the problem is. That is part of the reason why we are yet to start getting the dividend of democracy.
That's right.
It's difficult for any politician that pays his way into that position to serve the people.
He procured it.
They knew that the people did not vote for them. So why should they serve the people? And they also have the feeling that I don't need to serve you to get it the next 4 years.
Yes.
The same way I got it before, I will still apply the same system. So that is why, just to answer that your question, that is why. I'm now back to your question about the deployment, the uploading of result on IREV and the manual.
Manual.
These are still
accreditation.
These are still matters that I believe will pop up at the tribunals. A lot of issues. See, the Electoral Act and the guidelines, as INEC is using it, still need a lot of rejigging, reforming. And Supreme Court, the judgment has made it clear now that the Electoral Act, as good as it was as we were president last year, still need a lot of reforms. Like what you just said now, what is happening with manual accreditation, there should have not been any provision for that. Based on the Electoral Act.
And it's not even there, even in the INEC guidelines.
Yes.
And that is why I'm saying maybe a new vista, not of hope, but
of despair.
Yeah.
Because that is what will happen. Every single, even if it's one word,
it can invalidate
the entire process. Because the loser will have a point and say, okay, this is what you say according to your guidelines.
So now my concern, Nelson, is it just because there is no minimum threshold to decide a winner? In the sense that take Imo that has 4,754,058 polling units.
Yes.
It also has 2,419,922 voters. At the end of the day, you have maybe 419,922
deciding the winner.
Deciding the winner.
Yes.
Is this tendency giving room for people to do all what they like?
Yes.
Instead of saying that if at least half of the total number of voters do not participate, then the election will not be decided.
We need a threshold. Those are part of a continuous process that will continue to reform our electoral, even in the so-called advanced democracies. A lot of reforms are still being advocated. So, and we are just taking off. And we hope and pray that the managers of the system will be able to open up a little, and the political will be there to tinker with some of these things, to continue to align with emerging challenges, like the manual accreditation. That is open invitation to fraud. And it gravely undermines the integrity of this the whole process. Okay.
Yes, Clement, you also have something to add to this, the threshold issue, because we've shown it on the screen. Kogi, 1,932,654 registered voters. Imo, 2 million. Yeah, Imo, of course, 2,419,922, and Bayelsa, 1,056,862. And we mentioned this yesterday during the Daily Politics program. Of all those that actually registered, the only people that have not collected their voters card in Kogi, just 99,000. In Imo, 101,000. And in Bayelsa, 39,000. Meaning people are in possession
of their PVCs.
Of their PVCs, but they don't want to go out and vote. But you can see the desperation, in the contenders.
Yes.
They are just looking for just little advantage.
Yes.
I mean, very small margin, and they should be declared. Should the National Assembly look at threshold to say that this is the minimum that should be accepted to have an democratically elected leader?
Without missing what, I think the National Assembly should, a matter of urgency, start the process of reviewing our electoral process. And this threshold should be part of the key things that should be included. Because, just like you said, we have over 90% of PVC collected. I beg to tell you that from what we've gathered so far, I doubt if we have up to 50% turnout of that 90%.
Far from me.
Politicians depend on this. Desperate politicians need this. They need, the fewer the people, the easier the process of rigging to manipulate the election.
Yeah.
So, but if the law has already provided that, okay, for the election, you must score 50% before you can rule. If you can't get 50%, we have the second round. You have to be the politicians themselves will be the one mobilizing, doing the voter education.
That's right.
That INEC has been calling on them to do. They will be the one mobilizing and calling people, come out. Just come out and show you that we get this thing. So I agree, and I think the call, all the election stakeholders, all Nigerians should beat the drum and tell National Assembly that, okay, they should do this. Look at what we're having. Just like you said, at the end of the day, the people that will decide the winner in, say, Imo or Bayelsa, they may not even be up to the number of voters that decide an House of Rep member in Kano, for instance. We have a House of Rep members that got over 500,000 in places like that. Or senators.
Turnout.
Yes. So now you now talk of a whole state that has nothing less than 2 million people that can vote, and you cannot have up to 1.5 million deciding the state. No, a lot has to be done. A lot has to be done.
I also like to add quickly that political, what we have now as political party is different from what we used to have. Like in the First Republic, for instance, where political parties are owned by the people. You pay your dues. So political parties carry out their activities based on the contributions and donations and the dues collected from members. So they are members of political parties. So that by that, they own the system, not a deep pocket, not a one man from somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe there's need for 5 million, he brings out 6 million. So one person calling the shots, and a lot has to do, because they are no longer mobilizing.
All right, thank you. I think we have now Emmanuel Njoku, Director of Democracy and Governance at Collation, Kogi State. Hello, Mr. Ima.
Yeah, hello, my good friend. I greet you.
You are smiling. What's
good to be here with you. I'm good.
Okay, what's happening in Kogi?
Well, so far, so good. Surprisingly for most Nigerians. But if you look at the preparations before this election today, well, you wouldn't be that surprised when Nigerian police deployed 40,000 personnel to join the ones. Can you hear me?
Very well. Go ahead.
Yes. So surprised that Kogi State is peaceful, and but if you look at the numbers of deployment from the Nigerian police, from the DSS, from all the security agencies, even INEC deployments, well, you can see that you will anticipate that, yeah, it is going to be peaceful. So for once, Nigerian police said that they were ready and they are going to provide security, and the election is going to be peaceful. And I can tell you, being here in Lokoja, that yes, the election has been peaceful. And one takeaway from this, if you try to compare this election with the 2023 general election, you will see that yes, if the security personnel do their part, INEC will really improve in their own ways, because I've always said this, no matter how prepared INEC is, like they've been today, like they said they've been before today, if there was no security, the election would have been a mess. But so far, so good today in Kogi State.
Now, what about collation of results? Officials started collecting results?
Yeah, so yes, I was in the World Collation Center for Lokoja 1 in Lokoja local government area. It's called Crowder Memorial College. So at that place, the World Collation is ongoing. And so you know that after the World Collation, then I go to the local government collation, and then I go to the state local government collation. But one thing that is heartwarming here, beyond the World Collation process that is going on, is that Nigerians are able to follow up this election. So as at when I checked last at 5:30, I could see that on the IREV, the INEC result viewing portal, that Kogi State results were about 37% at that time. Bayelsa had gotten to 55% of results already turned in. Imo State was about 50% result turned in. That's 3 hours after the supposed close of polls by 2:30 p.m. So this is good. This is good. This is reassuring. And if they continue in this way, I believe that by 9 o'clock this evening, just like, if you remember, just like we witnessed at the 2022 governorship off-cycle election at Osun State and Ekiti State, that gave a lot of Nigerians the assurance to participate in 2023 general elections. In that election in 2022, results in that election in 2022, by 9:10 p.m. of that day, 95% of the results had already been turned in on the IREV. So we want to believe that the rate that the results are coming in on the IREV, that by 9 to 10 p.m. today, hopefully close to 85% or 90% of these results would have come in. And with that, people that are doing power tabulation will be able to have an idea where what the outcome of the election will be as to regards who the winners will be. But so far, we want to commend INEC. Save for one or two issues here and then, they've been really effective in this election. And I could tell because yesterday I was at St. Mary's LEA Primary School in Lokoja 1, which is a rack center where election sensitive and non-sensitive materials are deployed to the polls from. And as at 9 p.m. when I was at that rack, the SPO, the supervising presiding officer, had finished distributing materials to the presiding officers of all the polling units under that rack. And they had already done their refresher course to understand the beavers and the process. At that point, having finished that early, I could tell that the next day being today, the election day, that there will be early deployment and opening of polls across Kogi State. We've seen that, even though somewhere in Ampa local government area, I can't Egbeda in Ampa, sometime around 11 o'clock, and there were 2 polling units where our observers reported that they've not seen INEC officials and the materials. But overall, it's been positive, and this is good, and this is good for INEC. This is good for our democracy.
Okay, Ima, there is this pause we've been trying to chew here in the newsroom, in the studio, and maybe I should have your take. Is it genuine result sheets, or counterfeit result sheets seized from some elements in Kogi? How do you think they arrive at getting those documents?
So, well, one of our observers in Magongo, Okoni, a local government area, sent us one of such results as early as 10:30, 11 a.m. We published it on our Userbe platform. We also tweeted it, and we also escalated it to INEC. Well, it's good that INEC have provided timely response to explain, to say that they've acknowledged the results from that polling unit, and I guess a few other results that have made it online, and that they are going to respond to that. One thing I can say is, because I was at the CBN headquarters on Thursday, when CBN to observe the sensitive materials in CBN's possession, and also observe the sensitive materials being deployed to the local government areas across the state. I saw the Resident Electoral Commissioner of INEC signing the Form EC8B, EC8Cs. So one thing I can tell is that what you saw and what we saw is the original results. Is not some artificial intelligence or some doctored result, because for every election, INEC ensures that the results, the polling unit results are different from the last result. So yes, what we saw is a real copy of a result. But as an observer, our duty is to observe, report, and escalate where we can, and do a report after the election. We've done the needful. I think the onus is on INEC at this time. Since they've acknowledged, it's not enough to acknowledge. We would expect that by the time they do their first press briefing, they should be able to explain and how come those results came out that early when people were just about getting to votes.
And then finally, what is your take on the manual accreditation in some places? What is the position?
Manual accreditation?
Yes, manual.
Well, so that's the thing about elections. People and party agents and politicians sometimes. Sometimes politicians and political parties do not know how important a party agent is. So sometimes they just recruit people who are not literate enough to understand their role as party agents. The Electoral Act clearly stipulates that manual accreditation has been long banished. It's not legal anywhere. So if anybody goes ahead to do manual accreditation and have people vote, once it gets to court, all those results will be thrown away, because the Electoral Act states that the number of people accredited in your beavers, which does biometric accreditation, must match with the number of ballot papers cast in an election. So if you present result and you are showing incidents from or whatever place you wrote to do manual accreditation, it will not stand in court. It will be thrown away. And so political parties going forward should understand and do proper training of the kind of people they use as their party agents. They should, so that when they go there and someone is proposing that, they should shut it down. INEC said clearly that in this election, out of the so in Kogi they have 3,508 polling units. The INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner here said that they have 900 extra BVAS devices. So in anywhere where the BVAS fails to do the needful, to do the manual accreditation or do whatever role the BVAS is meant to be, that they have 900, which is roughly about 28% of the total polling units in Kogi. So what that means is that INEC prepared enough to replace any BVAS that is not functioning. So if someone has gone ahead and there may be overzealousness to go ahead and do manual accreditation, well, that's where the court comes in after election, and probably those folks will be thrown away.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Njoku, Director of Democracy and Governance for coming on. We'd love to have you some other time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Maybe to take your last point in this segment. Just 30 seconds, yeah.
Yes, as resource collation gets underway, we expect that it should be peaceful, and the security agencies should not be tired.
All right.
Because this is the critical stage.
All right.
They have done the first leg, and this is the critical stage, and we expect that by this time tomorrow, we should be...
Thank you. And Clement?
I agree with what you say. This stage we are getting into is the most important.
All right.
Because whatever effort they've made in the past can be made to become rubbish.
All
It's just slipping off for a few seconds.
All
so
right.
security agencies, INEC must not compromise the process at this moment. Collation at local government level, that is where the real problem is.
Right.
And they must make sure that nothing unbecoming happens.
All right, thank you very much, Clement Oloyede, Group Politics Editor, Daily Trust Book. And Nelson Omonu, Editor, Summit Post, for coming to the program. And we wish you well. And viewers, that's the much we can take in this band. The news update comes up at the top of the hour. Please stay tuned for more updates on the Kogi, Imo and Bayelsa up-cycle elections in our subsequent programming. From me, it is goodbye for now. I'm Hamza Idris.